Let's just jump right in, shall we? We are living in a world that is absolutely, completely drowning in data. I mean, every click, every purchase, every single sensor reading just adds to this gigantic global pile of facts. But here's the crazy part. With all this data, we often feel like we're starving for real understanding, for actual wisdom. So, how do we close that gap? Well, that's exactly what we're going to tackle here. We're going to climb the classic DIKW hierarchy, a really powerful model for turning all that raw noise into meaningful action. And this isn't some new problem. Almost 100 years ago, the poet T.S. Eliot asked this very question, and it just perfectly captures the challenge we're still facing today. It's not about just collecting more and more stuff, it's about climbing a ladder of understanding. So we're going to use this quote as our guide as we explore every single step of that climb.
All right, so let's start our climb at the very bottom, the foundation of the whole pyramid. This first step is maybe the most important transformation, turning raw, messy data into something that actually starts to make a little bit of sense. This is where the magic really begins.
So, what even is data, really? At its heart, it's just raw facts. It's totally unprocessed, it's unorganized, and it has zero context. Think of it like a big box of random Lego bricks. Each piece is a fact, but on its own, it doesn't mean anything. It's just there. And this is a really key distinction. Data can be quantitative, numbers like temperature readings, or it can be qualitative, like symbols or raw text from a survey. But here's the thing you have to remember. On its own, it has no meaning. A long list of numbers or a log of library book checkouts, it's just noise until we do something with it. And that something is what creates information. This is data that's been given some shape. In fact, the Latin root for information literally means to shape or to form. So by processing that data, organizing it, and giving it some structure, we give it context, we start to clear up the uncertainty. So how do you know you've got information on your hands? Well, it's when your data starts answering some basic questions for you. Who, what, where, when, how many? All of a sudden, those random book checkout logs become a structured report, maybe a chart or a table. Now it's data with a purpose. It's something we can actually store, find again later, and share with other people in a way that makes sense. Okay, let's move up to the next level. And this one is a huge leap, because this is where the human element really truly comes into play. We're shifting from just having organized facts to actually understanding them. This is the big transition from information to knowledge. See, knowledge isn't just information you can look up. It's information that you've absorbed, that you've internalized. It's been filtered through your own unique experiences, your learning, your personal understanding. This is when information becomes a real part of how you see the world. The main thing to remember is that knowledge is actionable. It's information that's been interpreted, and it helps guide what we do and the decisions we make. Now, it comes in a few different flavors, but most importantly, it exists in two key forms. Explicit, which is the stuff we can write down, and tacit, which is the stuff we just kind of know. And this chart makes the difference really clear. On one hand, you've got explicit knowledge. That's what you find in a textbook, a user manual, a database. It's pretty easy to share. But then, on the other hand, you have tacit knowledge. This stuff is personal. It's that gut feeling an expert has, or the incredible skill of a master craftsman. You can't just write it down in a book. It's passed on through mentoring, practice, and experience. The philosopher Michael Polanyi, who came up with this idea, put it perfectly. We know more than we can tell. Just think about riding a bike for a second. You know how to do it, right? But could you write a manual that would teach someone to ride perfectly without them ever getting on the bike and trying? Probably not. That feeling, that balance, that's tacit knowledge in a nutshell. So how does new knowledge even get created? Well, the CSCI model shows it's this awesome dynamic cycle between those two forms we just talked about. First up is socialization, where people share tacit skills directly, kind of like an apprenticeship. Then there's externalization, where we try our best to write that tacit knowledge down, turn it into a manual or a best practices guide. Next is combination, where we take different pieces of explicit knowledge, like a bunch of reports, and combine them to see a bigger picture. And finally, through internalization, we take that written knowledge and practice it until it becomes our own personal tacit skill. It's this powerful, continuous loop that really builds deep understanding. And that brings us to the very top, the summit of our pyramid. This is the final, and I think the most incredible transformation, turning knowledge into wisdom. This is where we go beyond just knowing what and how, and we finally start to understand why. So, wisdom is really the highest form of understanding. It's not just having knowledge, it's being able to use it with good judgment and foresight. And look at those keywords there: ethically, practically, insightfully. It's all about making the right call.
Yeah, wisdom is where your knowledge bumps up against your values and your life experience. It's about seeing the whole system, the bigger picture. It isn't just knowing the facts, but knowing why those facts matter and when is the right time to act on them. This is the stuff that guides real leadership and smart ethical decisions.
Okay, I know what you might be thinking. This has all been a bit abstract, right? A lot of theory. So let's make it super concrete. We're going to walk through a simple example from a library to see this entire pyramid in action, from the ground floor all the way to the top. So we start at the bottom. We have data. This is just a fire hose of raw facts from the library's computer system. Timestamps, book numbers, user IDs. All on its own, it's just a meaningless jumble of digits. Okay, now we process that data. We organize it, we count it up, and we put it into a monthly report. And boom, suddenly we have information. We can clearly see that books in the science section are getting checked out way more than any other subject. We've answered the what and how many questions. Now for the leap to knowledge. A librarian, using their experience, connects this information to something else they know: the school calendar. They see that the spike in science checkouts isn't random at all. It happens like clockwork in the weeks right before final exams. That connection, that aha moment of interpretation, that's knowledge. And finally, we reach wisdom. Wisdom takes that knowledge and acts on it with foresight. Instead of just reacting when students are scrambling for books, a wise decision is made. Proactively use the budget to buy more science e-resources before the next exam season even starts. It's a strategic move that anticipates a need and solves a problem before it happens. That right there is the peak of the pyramid. So, as we've seen, the path from data to wisdom is really a journey of adding layers. First context, then meaning, then experience, and finally, judgment. It's a climb that, honestly, all of us are making every single day, whether we realize it or not. Which really just leaves us with one last question to think about. In this world of absolutely infinite data, how are you going to make your climb to wisdom?